Wild food, that's what hunting and gathering is all about. This is a journey into Britain's ancient way of life as we attempt to find the foods eaten by our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Britain was once a land of hunter-gatherers, but we know virtually nothing about them. One of the things that's really interested me is trying to understand what they were actually eating. From the weapons they left behind, we've got a bit of an idea about their hunting, but when it comes to foraging and gathering, it's a mystery. But if we could travel back in time, there's so much the Stone Age hunter-gatherers of Britain could show us. And the one place we'd be guaranteed to meet them is the coast. In this programme, I want to explore the coastal resources they might have used, piecing together the fragments of their knowledge that still remain. For the past 10 years, I've been working closely with Professor Gordon Hillman from University College London, combining my practical knowledge with his expertise as a paleo-ethnobotanist.
An ethnobotanist is a person who studies plants as they're used by people. A paleo-ethnobotanist is somebody who studies those same relationships in the past. And we often refer to paleo-ethnobotanists as archaeobotanists. And there aren't very many of us around.
We're starting our journey in winter on the coast. It's the place we've made one of our most exciting discoveries.
A nice patch. Yes, there's some good buds here, aren't there?
Yeah, that's good. The unlikely looking sea kale may once have been a staple food. People have known about the above ground parts of this plant being edible for a very long while. The young shoots, when they start to come up in February, you can blanch them by covering them with mulch or even a plastic bag or a bucket. And then when they've grown to the size of a broccoli tip, you can cook them just like broccoli. But the most important part is the underground root, which can also be eaten. Of course, it's the sort of thing that our ancestors would have known and relied upon. For me, one of the joys of this journey is being able to combine my practical knowledge with Gordon's special understanding of the links between plants. That's what led us to sea kale. It's going to take a while to dig this root up. You can see how big it is. What's also interesting is that sheltering under this plant are these snails. It doesn't take too much imagination to realise that if our ancestors were digging this up for food, then there was some protein to go with it. And it's exactly what you see when you work with hunter-gatherers around the world today. If there's an opportunity available in association with another food, obviously it's going to be made use of. Which is exactly the sort of thing we saw when I took Gordon to Australia. He'd never seen hunter-gatherers in action, and it was a great chance for us to see how important food and food gathering is, not just to their diet, but to their whole way of life. One of the biggest lessons was how it all begins with the hunt for energy-giving caloric staples, plants that provide carbohydrates without burning up too many in their collection. And that's what we're after here.
That's a good route.
Pretty good, that one.
But that's the size you often encounter, so that's excellent. That's good to hear. Very good.
Well, I think we should have a drop of that, shouldn't we?
Right.
I'll clean it up a little bit, shall
Yes,
I?
I think just take the rind off. And,
I think I will make a flint tool for this, Gordon. Should do the trick. Don't think we need much more than that, really.
You should scrape off quite easily with the rind.
Well, we've got a bit there, look. That's a good bit.
This discovery of the edibility of the roots of sea kale is probably our biggest breakthrough. There's always a problem about getting enough energy foods as a hunter-gatherer. And so caloric staples or potential caloric staples are always the focus of their searches. And this is a prime example of a potential caloric staple. and the number of plants that grow in shingle beach like this is vast. And these roots are often of that large size. So this is good eating, and raw particularly. So you haven't even got to bother to cook it. This is consistently edible, right round the coast.
It's one of the best wild foods we have, isn't it, really?
It is. Very, very sweet.
Yeah, you can taste the sugar in it.
So this gives a real lift to the blood sugar levels.
Foods like this are really exciting. As soon as you bite into it, you can taste the sugar, the energy that's stored within it. And for just a small amount of effort, we've got a massive amount of food, and it doesn't need cooking. What's interesting to me is that plants like this take us back to a diet that's been forgotten, and one that could take us right back to the very earliest hominids that walked here. Perhaps people who didn't even have the ability to make fire. That is for the archaeologists to discover. What's fascinating is we're tasting perhaps what was one of their most important foods. A great deal has changed since the Stone Age. Today, places like this need legal protection as sites of special scientific interest. So we've had to get permission to gather foods here legally. The last time hunter-gatherers walked our coast was a period known as the Mesolithic, literally the Middle Stone Age. It was a time when they would have used anything and everything available around them. Coastlines are always very important to hunter-gatherers because the sea literally quarries away at the land's surface, revealing all sorts of interesting resources, like this one here. You see that staining there? That's caused by iron, but it's not man-made iron. That's iron pyrites, and that was a very valuable resource in the past. But the easiest place to gather that is down the beach, where it's been washed out by natural erosion. There's lots of folklore about the origins of iron pyrites. One story is that these are the ends of lightning bolts where they've hit the ground, and when you see the radial patterns in the middle of it, you can really believe it. In these low points, the hollows, if you like, on the floor of the beach here, the pyrites gets washed in. And because it's heavy, very dense material, it sits there. Now you find it in three kind of shapes. You find these long elongated bits. They're not brilliantly useful for what I have in mind for this. You find knobbly nuggets like that, and the problem with those is that they'll crumble later on. And then occasionally you find real gems like this, where the edges have been rounded off and it's all smooth. Those are brilliant. And what this was used for was for producing sparks with flint for firelighting. And for those people who lived here on the coast, this was an easily found resource that they could have taken inland and traded. We can only guess what the value of this may have been back then. Further along the beach, Gordon's found a plant clinging to the base of the cliff that's long been traded as a delicacy, rock samphire. But what about the food value, Gordon?
Well, as a green food and one that's available through the winter, of course, it has a special role. There's not very many plants on the coastline that you can eat right through the winter. And of course, it'll have vitamin C and vitamin E in it as a green plant, and no doubt has antioxidant properties too. But I personally find it's rather over-pungent to eat raw, and even cooked, you don't want too much of it.
Yeah, I'll try a little bit. It's immediately you taste it. Oh, strong, almost an oily flavour. But I think for our hunter-gatherer ancestors, if you've been on the shore here, perhaps in the summer they could be catching mackerel here. In the winter, other fishes, obviously, or shellfish. They could bring them on shore, light a fire. You can throw a handful of this on, put the fish on, and steam it within the plant itself. It imparts its flavour to the fish, and there you are, in